We navigate the world almost entirely blind to the mathematical blueprints that dictate our movement. Every morning, millions of us merge onto the asphalt, trusting a system that feels like a tangled web of random turns. But the U.S. interstate system isn't a chaotic sprawl, it's a decoded constellation. Each number on those highway shields is a specific coordinate designed to control the flow of a continent. The geography is built into the digits. If an interstate ends in 0, it runs horizontally, connecting east to west. To indicate verticality, the system uses highways ending in 5, slicing the map north to south, with the highest numbers placed in the east. Even the 3-digit minors follow this logic. The first digit acts as a signal. An even number tells you the road will eventually circle back to its parent highway, while an odd number warns that you are heading down a one-way spur. While older routes and regional anomalies create the occasional exception, the grid succeeds because it organizes massive amounts of energy and mass into a readable, predictable pattern. Mapping a system grants us the agency to move through it with intent. But what happens when the networks we need to navigate are internal, complex, and never actually engineered by us? To find out, we have to cross the threshold from concrete infrastructure into our own biological network. We are zooming past the surface, moving through tissue and into the flowing streams of the human body. Deep within this system sits an organ often dismissed as passive storage, human body fat. While it's frequently framed through the lens of laziness, fat is actually a vital endocrine organ. It functions as an internal routing system, dispatching chemical hormones like leptin to the brain, liver, and immune system to dictate exactly how much energy the body should spend and when it needs to stop eating. However, this internal map has a physical limit. When overwhelmed by an overabundance of energy, visceral fat cells bloat until they outgrow their own blood supply. They become critically stressed, essentially suffocating for lack of oxygen. When this signaling infrastructure is overloaded, the system turns against itself. A wounded fat organ stops providing energy and starts leaking stress signals into the rest of the network. These dying cells act as emergency beacons, summoning an army of immune macrophages. But the macrophages can't fix the stress. They simply stay and call for help, creating a state of chronic systemic inflammation. This constant inflammation batters the blood vessels and desensitizes cells to insulin. The body's ability to process glucose breaks down, leading directly to the onset of type 2 diabetes. This internal failure doesn't more than damage a single person's health. It exhausts the entire immune system. When the body is preoccupied with its own friendly fire, it is far less capable of defending against external threats. This is the opening lower respiratory infections and tuberculosis wait for. They exploit these weakened biological networks to claim over 3 million lives every year, the ultimate opportunists of a failing system. These infections join diseases like AIDS, which ravage populations when both biological and societal networks lack the resilience to withstand a systemic attack. The consequences scale up to trillions of dollars in lost labor and medical costs, trapping the world's poorest in cycles of debt because the underlying networks of health have effectively collapsed. From metabolic breakdown to global epidemics, these catastrophes are the result of invisible networks that we have struggled to see, map, and ultimately repair. If the human body is too chaotic and massive to map perfectly, how can we ever hope to fix it? To repair the macro, we have to find a master key at the absolute foundational scale of life. That key is C. elegans, a microscopic worm so small it can pass through the eye of a needle. Because it is translucent, its entire internal life is laid bare. This simplicity allowed scientists to achieve something staggering. They tracked every single one of the worm's 959 cells from birth to death, creating the first complete blueprint of a living organism. They mapped the connectome, the exact physical wiring of every neuron and connection. This wasn't just a list of parts, it was a functioning map of how a brain actually routes information. By using fluorescent proteins to see which genes were active, researchers gained the ability to switch specific genes off. They identified the precise instructions that tell cells when to grow, when to divide, and when to die, the very processes that drive cancer and aging in humans. This achievement transformed the logic of modern medicine. earning 4 separate Nobel Prizes for revealing the structural secrets of life itself. Tracking a 959-cell worm requires the same fundamental logic as plotting a route across the American highway grid, finding the numbers and connections that organize the chaos. We aren't bound to live in a world of invisible accidents. By decoding the structural maps of our world, from the vast reach of our continents down to the individual cells in our bodies, we gain the power to navigate our lives and fix the systems we depend on.